There is something in your home that you walk past every single day. You have never questioned it. You have never suspected it. It sits there, completely still, completely silent, and yet it shapes everything that happens inside those walls. It is not a person draining your energy. It is not a circumstance you can change with a phone call. It is something older than that, something that the ancient masters understood long before modern life taught us to stop paying attention. It is the color of your walls. I want to tell you about a woman I once knew. She had worked for 30 years to build a life she was proud of. When she finally bought her own home, she did everything right. She chose quality furniture, she bought plants, she hung photographs of people she loved. She picked colors that looked beautiful in the magazines, colors that were trending, colors that designers were calling sophisticated and modern. But within a year of moving in, something shifted. Not dramatically, not all at once. Just slowly, quietly, the way a fire dies when you stop feeding it. The money she expected to save seemed to vanish before she could hold it. She felt tired in a way that sleep could not fix. She stopped inviting people over because she told herself she was too busy. But the truth was that something about the space felt heavy, unwelcoming, like it was asking more from her than it was giving back. When I walked through her door, I knew before she finished the first sentence. The colors on her walls were consuming the energy of that home the way a drain consumes water, silently, continuously, and completely. What I am going to share with you today is not interior design. It is not a trend. It is a body of knowledge that ancient Feng Shui masters, Vedic architects, and energy healers across multiple traditions preserved for centuries. The understanding that color is not decoration. Color is frequency, and the frequency that fills your home fills you too. A home vibrating at the wrong frequency cannot hold prosperity, cannot hold peace, cannot hold the kind of love and abundance that every human soul deserves. Today, you are going to learn about the 7 colors that the old masters always kept away from living spaces, what energetic patterns they create, and most importantly, what you can do right now if any of them are already on your walls. If this teaching is speaking to you already, if something in you feels like this video arrived at exactly the right moment, I want you to drop a comment below. Write the word open, just that one word. Because what you are doing right now, simply by watching and listening, is already a form of opening, and this community sees you. And if you have not subscribed to this channel yet, do it now. Turn on the bell. Because what we explore here together, prosperity, protection, spiritual clarity, inner transformation, you will not find it packaged like this anywhere else. Let us begin. The first color, absolute black. There is a kind of darkness that restores, and there is a kind of darkness that consumes. Every tradition of wisdom I have ever studied distinguishes between the two. The darkness of night restores us. It is the darkness of completion, of rest, of renewal. But absolute black as the dominant color of a living space belongs to a different category entirely. It does not rest, it absorbs. I once visited a man who had painted his entire apartment in flat matte black. He was a creative person, a musician, a songwriter, and he wanted his space to feel dramatic, intentional, unlike anything else. And it was. But within months of moving in, his creativity dried up. Not suddenly, just gradually, the songs stopped coming. The ideas that used to arrive unbidden in the shower, on a walk, in the middle of the night, they stopped arriving. He described it to me this way. It feels like I'm living inside a held breath. That is precisely the energetic truth of absolute black on your walls. In the understanding passed down through generations of masters who studied the relationship between space and human consciousness, absolute black carries the frequency of total absorption. It does not allow light to remain. It pulls light inward and holds it there, unable to move, unable to bounce, unable to reach the eyes and the nervous system and the heart in the way that light is meant to. And when a space cannot radiate light, the people living within it begin to mirror that quality. They absorb, worry, fatigue, old pain, but they lose the capacity to radiate, to emit, to attract. Prosperity flows toward people who are radiating something. It has nowhere to land in a space that only draws inward and never gives back. If black dominates any primary living area in your home, you do not need to tear everything apart. Begin with one wall, one room. Introduce amber, ivory, soft terracotta, colors that remember what warmth looks like. Let light find somewhere to rest. The second color, ashen white. Most people who choose this color believe they are choosing purity. They are not. They are choosing absence. Ashen white, that particular shade that seems to have been mixed with dust, with shadow, with a kind of resignation, is one of the most widely used and least understood colors in modern homes. It photographs beautifully. It looks clean in artificial lighting. Designers recommend it constantly, but living inside it tells a different story. A man I counseled had repainted his home in this color after a difficult divorce. He wanted a clean slate. He wanted, as he put it, to feel like he was starting from zero. The color felt blank, neutral, full of possibility, at least in the showroom. In the months that followed, his home began to feel less like a blank slate and more like an empty room waiting for something that never arrived. Invitations declined. Energy flagged. He found himself making less effort at work, less effort with friends, less effort with himself. I don't feel depressed exactly, he told me. I just feel like nothing is particularly worth beginning. That is the energetic signature of ashen white. The ancient masters described certain spaces as having what they called nourishing quality, the capacity of an environment to emotionally feed the people living within it. A space should function at some level like a good meal. It should leave you more than it found you. Ashen white does not nourish. It sits in silence. A silence that gradually teaches the people around it that there is nothing particularly worth expecting. The correction is not complicated. Warm it, a single wall in deep cream or honey, amber lamplight, natural wood, the green of a living plant, small doses of color that remind the body that life is happening here, inside these walls, right now. The third color, lead gray. Some colors make you feel like things are about to begin. Lead gray makes you feel like they never quite will. I want you to think about a specific kind of frustration, not the sharp frustration of being blocked, but the dull, ongoing frustration of being almost ready, almost there, almost. Projects that stall at 90%, decisions that circle endlessly without landing, conversations that need to happen but somehow never do. That is the energetic atmosphere of lead gray. I was once asked to assess the home office of a woman who had spent 3 years trying to launch a business she deeply believed in. She had the knowledge, she had the connections, she had done every practical thing correctly, but the launch kept being postponed. Something always came up. Some detail always needed one more revision. Her confidence, which had once been steady, had become something she had to consciously reconstruct every morning before she could begin. Her office was painted entirely in lead gray. The old masters describe what happens in a space like this as the suppression of the movement element. In the energetic understanding they preserved and transmitted, movement is not just physical, it is the invisible quality that allows decisions to crystallize, ideas to become actions, and the future to feel reachable rather than theoretical. Without movement, there is no flow. Without flow, prosperity finds no current to travel on. It simply redirects, not because it was meant for someone else, but because the space offered no opening. What breaks lead gray open is precisely what it suppresses. Bring in color, bring in life. A bowl of citrus on the desk. A print in deep golden yellow. A small plant that grows noticeably, week by week, reminding the room and the person in it that forward motion is the most natural thing in the world. The fourth color, shock red fire, when honored, warms everything it touches. Fire, when released without container, burns. Shock red, that electric, fully saturated, unmodulated red, is one of the most well-intentioned mistakes I encounter in home energy work. People choose it because they want aliveness. They want to push back against the neutrals, the beiges, the grays. They want to feel something, and they do. But not what they expected. A couple once invited me to their home after months of unexplained conflict. They were deeply in love, that was obvious, but they had been fighting in ways neither of them recognized as their own. Small things were detonating into large arguments. Their children were restless and unable to settle. There was a low-grade electricity in the house that everyone felt and no one could name. Their living room was painted shock red on every wall. What the ancient masters taught, and what every tradition of energy healing confirms in its own language, is that the human nervous system cannot distinguish between the frequency of extreme visual stimulation and the frequency of threat. A room bathed in intense, unbroken red signals to the body, continuously and below conscious awareness, be alert, be ready, something may be about to happen. When you are always alert, you are never at rest. When you are never at rest, the smallest friction becomes unbearable. And when a household is chronically unable to rest, the energy required for growth, for creation, for abundance, is consumed entirely by the ongoing effort of managing the tension. Red does not need to be removed. It needs to be respected. Used as accent, as detail, contained by earth tones, sand, clay, warm brown, that give the fire a heart to live in rather than a whole room to fill. Before I go further, I want to pause here. If this teaching is resonating with you, if you have recognized your own walls, your own home, your own unexplained experiences in anything I have said, then I want you to know this community exists for exactly this reason. Subscribe to this channel and turn on the bell. Every week, teachings on energy, prosperity, protection, and spiritual clarity delivered to you as they were delivered to me. Not as information, as transformation. The fifth color, deep midnight blue. There is a depth that opens you, and there is a depth that closes you. Deep midnight blue, when it dominates a living space, belongs to the second. It creates a particular sensation, one I have heard described in remarkably similar ways by people who did not know each other, in homes on opposite sides of the country. The sensation is not exactly sadness, it is something closer to distance, a growing gentle distance from other people, from enthusiasm, from the desire to reach outward into the world. An older gentleman I worked with had retired and repainted his bedroom deep navy, the kind of blue that looks almost black in certain lights. He had loved blue his whole life. It felt like his color, his identity. He could not have imagined it might be working against him. 6 months later, his children had noticed the change before he had. He was declining invitations, losing interest in hobbies, growing quieter in a way that concerned them. I thought I was just finally slowing down, he told me. But it didn't feel like peace. It felt like I was getting farther from everything, and I couldn't find a reason. In the energetic understanding of the ancient masters, deep midnight blue collapses the outward moving field of a person's energy. The natural human energetic field is designed to radiate, to move outward, to connect, to send and receive. Deep midnight blue, when it surrounds a person in their most intimate space, gradually trains that field to move inward instead, to contract, to fold. and the contracted energy field cannot attract. Prosperity, connection, new life, these require that your field be open enough to make contact with them. To restore what deep midnight blue suppresses, bring in warmth, peach, soft gold, pale wood. Let natural light flood in without obstruction. And if you can, place something in that room that symbolizes expansion, a landscape, an open sky, any image that reminds the eyes and the subconscious that there is more world beyond these walls, and it is calling your name. The sixth color, closed moss green. Green is the color of life, but not every green is living. Closed moss green, that dense, dark, lightless tone that reminds you of somewhere the sun stopped reaching, carries the frequency of the thing that stopped growing and never began again. It is not the green of a forest in the morning. It is the green of a garden after the gardener stopped coming. I worked with a couple who ran a small holistic wellness practice out of their home. They had chosen this color because it felt natural, earthy, aligned with their values. And for a while it seemed to work. But gradually something in the practice became stuck. The same clients, the same conversations, the same solutions. No new ideas arriving, no new directions emerging. The wife described it to me with a kind of bewildered sadness. It's like we are standing in place and the world is slowly moving on without us. The ancient masters described certain colors as carrying what they called the initiative frequency, the energetic quality that pushes the seed up through the soil before it knows that sunlight is waiting for it on the other side. The impulse to begin, the courage to try the new thing. Closed moss green suppresses that frequency. It speaks to the unconscious mind the language of things that have already given what they had. Soil that is not ready to receive new life. What restores it is astonishing in its simplicity. Replace it or dilute it with living greens, jade, sage with warmth in it, the green of new leaves, of spring grass, of anything that reminds the room. Growing is not over here. Growing is just beginning. The seventh color, deep dominant brown. And now we arrive at the most deceptive of all seven. Because this one does not look like a problem. It looks like home. Deep dominant brown feels like safety, like ancestry, like roots. And in small measures, in furniture, in trim, in accent, it genuinely is those things. Brown, properly placed, is grounding. It is solid. It is trustworthy. But when it dominates the walls of a living space, heavy, dark, unbroken, what was warmth becomes weight. What was foundation becomes confinement. I was once called to a beautiful old home that a young family had recently inherited. 3 generations of the same family had lived within those walls. The craftsmanship was extraordinary, the history was palpable, and the brown was everywhere. Walls, ceiling beams, heavy woodwork, every surface in the same deep, dark, unbroken tone. Within a year of moving in, the family began experiencing what I can only describe as a slow stilling. The eldest son withdrew from a promising career opportunity without understanding why. The mother's health became fragile in ways that no doctor could explain fully. The father, an energetic, visionary man, found his ambitions growing quieter month by month, as if someone were gradually turning down the volume on everything he wanted. We love this house, he told me, but it feels like it's ours to maintain, not ours to live in. That is precisely the energetic signature of deep dominant brown. A field so dense, so settled, so immovable that the people living inside it begin to match it. They maintain, they sustain, they endure, but they do not expand, they do not risk. They do not grow into the fullness of what they are capable of becoming. And prosperity does not find its way to those who are only enduring. It finds its way to those who are moving, who are open, who have made space inside themselves and inside their homes for something new. To break the energetic hold of deep dominant brown, begin with light. A single wall in warm ivory, mirrors that expand what the eye can see, golden lamplight that reminds the room that warmth and weight are not the same thing, and somewhere in a throw pillow, a vase, a single blooming flower, yellow, the color of mornings that have not happened yet, of futures still being written. The three colors that open the way. Now you know the seven that close. Let me show you the three that open. The first is warm cream yellow, not the yellow of noise or of warning. The yellow of early morning light through a window you love. The yellow of honey, of sun on wood floors, of everything that signals to the body, below conscious thought, you are safe here. Good things happen here. This tone belongs to the earth element in the old Feng Shui understanding, and its primary energetic gift is nourishment. A room painted in warm cream yellow does not merely look welcoming. It functions that way. People stay longer, they relax more deeply, they open without trying to. And when people are genuinely open inside a space, that space begins to vibrate with the frequency of receptivity, which is precisely the frequency that prosperity recognizes and moves toward. The second is clear jade green, green the color of a leaf after rain, green that knows it is still growing. This tone brings into your home the frequency of continuous, effortless forward motion, the quality that a seed has, pushing toward light through soil, not because it decided to, but because growth is simply what it is. In spaces dedicated to work, creativity, or learning, jade green is extraordinary. It activates without overstimulating. It generates clarity without urgency. And it carries a particular message to the unconscious. What you are trying to build is not only possible, it is already in motion. The third is ivory or warm off-white, not cold white, not clinical white, white with the warmth of candlelight in it, white that has been touched by gold, by sand, by everything soft and forgiving about the world. The ancient masters described this tone as the perfect ground, the surface that does not compete with the life being lived inside the space, but amplifies it, that does not impose its own frequency, but welcomes and lifts every positive frequency that enters. If you are standing at a threshold right now, a new beginning, a new chapter, a new version of yourself that you are working up the courage to step into, then ivory is the color of that threshold. It says to the universe, in the language that spaces speak, I have made room, I am clear, I am ready. Take a moment right now, before this video ends, and simply look. Look at the walls around you. Not with the eyes of someone who chose a paint color in a hardware store years ago. With the eyes of someone who now understands that every frequency filling a room is also filling the people inside it. The ancient ones built their temples with precise, intentional color because they understood what modern life has caused so many of us to forget, that we are not separate from our environments. We absorb them, we are shaped by them. We become, over time, a reflection of the frequency we live inside. Your home is not just where you sleep and eat. It is the field your energy inhabits every day. It is the space that receives you when the world has been hard. It is the invisible architecture of your inner state. And your inner state is what determines what you attract, what you allow, and what you ultimately build. A home in harmony will not make your life perfect, but it will give you the clarity to see opportunities when they arrive, the energy to pursue them, the openness to receive them without pushing them away. That is not a small thing, that is everything. Before we close, I want to give you something to do right now. In the comments below, write the color you are bringing into your home. Or write this: I am transforming my space and I am ready to receive. That statement, made with intention, declared publicly in a community of people on the same path, carries more weight than it might seem. It is a message to yourself, and it is a message to the universe. If this teaching moved something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. A friend, a family member, Someone you know is tired and searching. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do for the people we love is simply to pass along the light. And if you want to continue this journey, if you want to go deeper into the relationship between your physical space, your energy, and the life you are building, become a member of this channel. Your membership is what allows these teachings to keep reaching the people who need them most. Every week, deeper content, closer conversations, a community of people who are serious about transformation. In our next teaching, we are going to go into something that very few people have ever considered: how the arrangement of furniture creates invisible energetic corridors in your home, and how certain placements are silently redirecting financial flow away from you, even in a home painted in the most beautiful, harmonious colors. You will not want to miss it. Until then, care for your space. Tend to the frequency of the room you live in, because the person who understands that their environment is a spiritual instrument and who chooses to play it with intention is the person whose life quietly and irresistibly begins to change.